Cool. So this will be our 9th town hall. Just for people that don't know what town halls are about, we essentially give the updates and plans. So updates being what happened the previous week and any feedback that would be useful for improving whatever happened the previous week. And then the plans are essentially outlining what will be done this week and any opinions on how to do them or anything in that regards. So jumping straight into the updates, we've been chatting with an organization called Insight to try out our first Algovera Hackathon. We're waiting on to draft a sort of a agreement for service, and then once that's signed, we can announce it officially, and that's expected to happen. Expected to happen later on this week. So hopefully we'll be able to announce that and give all the details about that later on this week. In terms of, so Jakub had mentioned that he was going to be running late. He was sort of leading the Sprint 1, which was integrating MetaMask with Jupyter Lab notebooks. So I can push that into later on. Maybe we can go to the third agenda, which is the hacking sessions, DeFi hacking sessions. Maybe Richard can give a little update on that.
Yeah, sure. So lots of people have been chipping in with like coding and stuff in the DeFi hacking sessions, which is great. So for the first few weeks, we were working on extracting the data, and so that was like the domain experts were heavily involved there, like who are used to querying the blockchain, and also like they're trying to start their own DeFi startups, and so they have a good idea of what the business use case is. And so we're starting to get to the point now where we've extracted the data, and this is where the data science team comes in and creates models and processes the data and all that sort of stuff. So Vintage Gold created a first notebook and trained the first model. And then in last week's session, we discussed some of the improvements we could make. So one of the things was the way we picked the training set and test set to more accurately reflect the real world use case, and also to use like a windowing approach to like increase the size of our training set. And so, so basically, then Archie as well actually created a few different notebooks for the DeFi hacking, where he tried a new model. He also changed the way that we split the training and test set, and also I just saw today worked on an LSTM model, which is like a recurrent model. And so it's great that everyone's chipping in with these data science models, and hopefully people can keep joining the hacking sessions, and we can try and figure out what the best model is. We're still getting really good accuracy, like suspiciously good accuracy. So it might be because what we're trying to predict is already deterministic, or maybe we're leaking some information from the training set or something like that. So these are the sort of things that we need to make sure that we're doing properly. But it's going really, really, really well so far.
It sounds like amazing progress. That's great. Looking forward to hearing updates on what you guys are going to be doing this week. Then there's the pods that happened. So there was the storage pod and the token engineering pod. So again, Richard is involved in the storage pod. So maybe you can give an update on the storage pod.
Perfect. Yeah, I just realized my microphone was quite far away. Maybe that's better. So the storage pods, I think I explained last week that it kind of happened organically in the community, where there were a few different people interested in storage. And so we had our first pod meeting last week, which went really well, just to introduce ourselves to each other and start to like talk about the problem and stuff. And so for the last week, we were reviewing some different solutions and trying to figure out what's the best way to start. And so like storage, there's quite a lot of different people working on storage. So you have like IPFS at the lowest level. Then you have some people building on top of IPFS, like FELToken. Then you have people building on top of FELToken, like Textile, for example. And so it's just, there's a bit of a question about what sort of level we should approach the problem at. Should we build on top of IPFS or try to use existing solutions that have more? And so yeah, there's lots of chat going on in the storage channel anyway. So if you're interested in like working on storage specifically for data science applications, I encourage you to keep an eye on that channel. And yeah, we'll keep you updated with progress.
Sweet. And then the token engineering pod was mainly to sort of onboard Will, who's been in the community and has been in some conversations, who was interested in getting involved in the token engineering pod, mainly as a way to catch him up with all the thinking that we've currently developed for how the tokenomics might work in Algovera, and the different sort of aspects that we've been thinking about. So it was mainly a way of catching them up and letting him ask any questions for clarifying any aspects. So there wasn't sort of any new insights there, just sort of onboarding. By the way, if anybody has any questions regarding any of the updates or plans, feel free to drop them in the chat or jump in. It's sort of like an open mic conversation here. In terms of the next aspect, the Junto Automation, so I actually need to touch base with Keaton on this. So just to give context to everybody, we think it would be great for people in the community to start their own conversations around ideas and concepts that they think are interesting. And the idea of Juntos really came from sort of Benjamin Franklin had this sort of a Junto group where he gathered like people from all diverse backgrounds to sort of improve themselves and improve their community and sort of help others. In a similar spirit, we think like conversations can spark ideas, and ideas can turn into products, and hopefully Algovera can be a framework to help those products get launched. And so I think what we're sort of planning is having a way for community to propose conversations, topics, and anybody in the community to lead and organize these conversations. And what will essentially happen is you fill out this form and it gets added onto a common calendar that everyone can view. They can view the details of the conversation and consider whether they want to join or not. So Keaton can give an update on where the progress of that is.
Yeah, thanks, Hitesh. So like Hitesh mentioned, the idea here is to have a form that anyone can access and submit ideas for these Juntos. So we actually do have the form. It is up live right now. So I'm going to post that in the chat here. Just wanted to give one heads up. It's likely we'll be adding a couple additional fields to that form just to sort of round out the process for submitting a Junto, but that link will stay the same. So feel free to bookmark that link. That is where you submit information for a Junto. Basically, the flow will go, someone submits the form, and then it'll be subject to review just to make sure we're not getting spammy submissions, that kind of thing. And then we'll automatically push the event upon approval to the Algovera calendar. So the idea is just to make it as open as possible, and allow anyone to just get together and form these groups and start conversations within the Algovera framework. So feel free to ask any questions about the form or about the meeting format in general. But again, that link there is live. Feel free to submit your ideas for Juntos. And again, there will be likely some additional forms or fields added onto that form just to round out the process there. But super excited to get this going and can't wait to see what folks come up with for conversations. But any questions, drop them here in the chat or later in the Discord.
Thanks, Jakob, also for joining. We'll get an update for the sprints, the integration with MetaMask in just a sec. I just wanted to say as well that we'll be migrating the calendar. So the calendar that's up right now is on my personal Gmail, Google account, which is not great. And so we're going to move that to a Algovera account, and all the forms, Junto forms that will be filled will be on the Algovera Google account calendar, and any of the events that are currently on the calendar that's under my personal account will also be transferred and migrated to the Algovera calendar. So that'll happen today as well. So all this should be started. The Junto forms and the calendar will all be started today. Yeah, so Jakob, could you give us a little update of how things are progressing in terms of the integration?
Yeah, so right now we're at a point where we basically have one extension that allows you to connect to your MetaMask, and from your MetaMask, basically from the Jupyter Notebook cells, trigger a transaction that you will have to sign with your MetaMask, and you can then from the Jupyter Notebook instantly buy and download a data set from Ocean. And so and everything, and it's basically like for the user journey, you basically have to currently execute just two function calls in the Jupyter Notebook, and that's it. So in terms of the sprint, Keaton and I have agreed that this is where we wanted it to get in terms of this first sprint, but obviously it's going to be it's a long-term project, so we're going to keep iterating and making the user experience smoother and smoother. And also, I think that it's going to, in the end, integrate with like the Algovera library, because a lot of the functions from the library will also likely be implemented directly to the Jupyter extension. And plus, there might be some additional, like, we might add additional functionality to the extension to also include like a server extension for decentralized storage or compute. So the development is still in progress, but in terms of the sprint, I'd say that we have gotten to a pretty good point.
Sweet, good work, guys. That's awesome. Praksh, did you want to jump in there? So your mic was. No.
Oh yeah, I think it was my mistake.
No worries. So coming on to the plans. So the first item is the Algovera newsletter. So we've sort of been thinking about doing a newsletter for a while now. The reason being that, you know, there's so much things happening in Algovera that it's hard to keep track of all of them. And, you know, it would take a lot of time to like go and watch through all the recordings, and for people who want the more in-depth sort of detail of what happened in the conversation can do and watch the recordings. We think it would be great to have it in a very concise format that people can essentially digest all the things that happened that week. You know, the town halls is a way of doing it, but we think it might be good to have it in a written format that's concise, providing the links as well to the different things that are going on. So our aim is to set that up this week and work out the details of how it would work. And hopefully we can do this on a weekly basis to catch everyone up with what's happening in the week. Second thing is to start running token simulations of the Algovera framework. So the token engineering pod has gotten to the point where we're starting to run token simulations of the sort of the framework we've been developing, and so it would be great to start running these simulations and starting to look at the results. I don't know if there's anything more to add there, Richard or Jakob.
I guess me and Jakob were talking about the balancer simulations, and so like token spice is quite complicated, and it's not always easy to see the dynamics of the liquidity pools, which are based on balancer. And so we're just exploring without token spice at the moment. You know, if we put a certain number of tokens into the pool initially, and then we have a certain number of buyers, what does that look like? And so a good first step might be to like simulate what we want to do with the DAOs in balancer simulations, and then maybe move on to token spice. But we're kind of exploring that at the moment. And actually I pushed a notebook on the balancer simulations up to our GitHub. So if people want to play around with the balancer simulations and like, you know, simulate creating pools with a certain number of tokens and then seeing what the price of the data token and the price compared to Ocean will be and all that sort of stuff, there's a notebook where you can do that.
Cool. Thanks, Richard. So the third item is the drafting the community track and the join track. So this is sort of being increasingly pertinent to us to start start designing the community track and join track. So what we mean by community track is how do I get involved in contributing to the Algovera ecosystem? Be that setting up a pod yourself that you're interested in and start working on the pod, or you know, maybe it's another aspect of Algovera that you want to work on. So how there isn't sort of an outlet to start you like getting involved in that process, and so we'd like to get a more you know, structure to that process, and hopefully we can work on this this week. As well as that is the join track, and this is also becoming more important as more projects will get funded and will be working you know, to essentially progress and deliver on their deliverables. People might want to have additional people on their squad with certain skills and so on. So what's the best way to essentially get in front of these people and sort of advertise what you're looking for? There isn't really an outlet for people to essentially advertise what sort of people they're looking for in their squad and to recruit them. As well as this is there might be members of the community that are interested in joining your squad, and there isn't sort of a structured process to sort of register your interest in working in the squad. And so this is sort of the general broad themes of both the community track and the join track, but we'll have to have a bit more detail and structure, and hopefully we'll be able to do that this week. Yeah, so that's the community track and the join track. We'd also like to set up the marketplace pod. So we've been sort of working heavily in terms of the building the community aspect and start building the technical layer of Algovera through the development sprints now. And one aspect of Algovera that we need to start working on is the marketplace aspect of Algovera. And so we're going to start the marketplace pod and ask anybody that's interested in starting to design the marketplace and start the conversation about Algovera marketplace to give us a message, and we can sort of work together to set up the marketplace pod.
From discussions with Maria as well, which is a really good example of setting up a pod. So I was chatting to Maria on Discord, and we were trying to explore what she'd be interested in working on. And then I think, Maria, you found the marketplace pod interesting, and so we just kind of started moving towards that. And yeah, but like, I guess, like Hitesh said, the idea would be to set up our own marketplace. And there's some blog posts for like forking the Ocean marketplace, but you know, we also want to design our own UI and UX, and also maybe try and integrate it with like Algovera squads. So maybe you could have like a squad marketplace where you can see all the different teams working on the different things, see what their treasury is and their votes and all this sort of stuff. And so, yeah, it's a massive part of the project. And so Maria and I will probably set that up this week. And if anyone else would be interested, we'd love to hear. I don't know, Maria, do you have anything to add?
Not really, because I was planning on going through kind of that blog post with the tutorial that you sent, but I have a bunch of deadlines that are all due tonight for school. So once tonight is over, I'm going to start looking into it. I was actually going to ask because I'm not sure kind of the process of starting a pod for the first time, or just in general, because you were talking to me on Discord about how a lot of the work is kind of asynchronous, like we don't always communicate a ton. So I didn't know if like there would be kind of hacking sessions or how we'd go about this, but I guess we can just talk about it offline. And then I guess if anybody else is interested in joining the pod, to reach out to one of us, and then we can make a separate channel on Discord or a group or something. But yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, we don't know what the format is yet either. Like you're the first person who's approached us and asked to start a pod, so we're figuring out as well. And yeah, on the deadlines, absolutely no problem. Like I said, we work async, and we know that people are only doing this part-time, and so we don't expect like progress every single day and stuff. So Yeah, no, that's great. And yeah, in terms of how we would set up the pods, so we're flexible on that as well. How we've typically done pods in the past is just to have one meeting per week, where we, discuss plans, maybe discuss progress and stuff like that. But I think there's a place for lots of different things for a pod during the week. So we could have one meeting for a pod, but then we could also have a hacking session. And maybe there's some other format as well that would be really useful. And so we're kind of flexible on what, if people want to start a new format of something for a pods, we definitely love to hear. And I think at the very least for the marketplace pod, we can do a hacking session, and then maybe also a 1 hour kind of update meeting like we do for the rest of the pods. That's my current thoughts.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm excited.
Sweet. Yeah, all of this is sort of, we're figuring it out as we go along, and there are so many aspects to figure out. So, yeah, I think a lot of this will be an iterative process, and as we do more and more pods, we'll have a better idea of how to shape and structure them. Yeah, so that's the idea. The fifth agenda item is sort of migrating the blog posts that are currently on Medium to the Algovera docs docs URL. So we're currently setting up the handbook and the blog post under docs.algovera.ai. So it's still a work in progress. There are content to be added to the website, and one aspect is the blogs. That there have been a couple of blogs that Richard have posted on Medium. We'd like to migrate that to the docs.algovera.ai, and so all information can be in the one place and easier to navigate. So that's the reason for migrating the blog from Medium. Then there's the hacking sessions that's going to be happening this week, the DeFi one. Is there any updates? Do you know what you guys are planning for this week, Richard?
I was actually thinking of maybe, because I know Archie worked on the notebooks, and last time we asked Vintage Gold to present the notebooks, but I know that the hacking sessions are a bit of a difficult time for people over in the eastern side of the world, and so maybe I can talk to you about this later, Archie, but maybe even a video walkthrough, maybe where you can chat through some of the parts of the notebook would be cool that we could show during the hacking session. Or maybe I can just, maybe we can chat and I can present your notebook at the hacking session or something like that.
Yeah, sure. I think the session will be a bit difficult for me. I think it's about 2:30 in the morning, but of course I can chat with you, and then perhaps you can present it for me.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah,
sure.
Let's chat. And yeah, so that's what I was thinking. Maybe just talk about some of the progress that's been made in terms of the models and stuff, and then figure out what problems still remain. And then it's progressing nicely with different models each week.
Cool. So just in the same light as the hacking session, so Robin has also expressed interest in starting up a face anonymization hacking session, and so this would be a good point for us to start thinking about how can we put more structure to proposing hacking sessions and organizing hacking sessions in a more structured way for the community, so that anyone can maybe propose a hacking session, or we have to start thinking about how to organize hacking sessions more autonomously as well. But just to say that we'll sort of give more details of our thinking about hacking sessions in the coming days and weeks. But to also say that the face anonymization hacking session will probably be the next hacking session, if I'm not incorrect.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, this is with Robin from Data Union. And this was we've been talking about this for a long time, but basically they're creating an image data set. So something like ImageNet for classification, which will be one of the first, which is co-owned by the contributors. And they have some images that have pictures of people in them. And so they want to have some sort of anonymization algorithm that they can run on their images that anonymizes faces. And so that's what the purpose of these hacking sessions would be, using some like public data sets and maybe some like private data sets that we've collected to create an anonymization algorithm that we can then publish on the Ocean Marketplace, and whoever works on it will be co-owners of it as well to some extent. And also, like Robin is going to put some money in the treasury to reward people each month for working on it. I think the way we'll do that is by discussing it in maybe the first hacking session. So that could be like maybe next week at some point, and Robin will give a presentation about the problem, and then we can have a discussion about how we want to set up the rewards for people who work on it. So yeah, I'll likely give an update on that later in the week at some point.
Cool. Thanks, Richard. And then the final sort of item is that we've closed the round 1 grants for Algovera, and we're sort of in the feedback phase. So I'd encourage everyone to sort of read through all the proposals and give feedback on the project. I think it would be like appreciated by other people that propose to get feedback from the community. Yeah, and Keaton has just linked the discourse channel, Algovera's discourse. So you should check it out. And yeah, that would be awesome. So I'll also be able to give feedback to all the projects. I have to look through all the projects in a bit more detail, just catching up on all the work. So I'll also be able to give some feedback. Yeah, so just to give that. And then any other items anybody wants to chip in and give updates?
Yeah, we're about 15 minutes early compared to what we said for presentations. So if anyone has like a topic that we just discussed that they wanted to dive into in more detail, then we have time.
Kind of went through it a little bit quick as well. Thought we wouldn't have enough time.
Maybe we can chat like on the face anonymization, for example, like what sort of, so we've been discussing the format for a hackathon, for example, which we're doing with NSIGHT, which is the medical image classification. And that's a case where we're building something for a client. And so they want to take most of the ownership, like 75% of the ownership, but then the data scientists will get some ownership and also get paid for their work on it. With data union, for example, with the face anonymization, it might be a little bit different in that, like, we want the data scientists that work on it to, get more ownership and maybe drive the project a bit more. And so we're basically playing with all of these different ways to reward data scientists. And so I wonder if anyone has any thoughts on preferences for how data scientists, like what's their method of reward that they'd most prefer? Like, does it lean more on the pay side, the ownership side? Maybe, like, we'll definitely do a combination of both, but which side would people lean more heavily towards? Probably something people need to think about.
Yeah, it's like probably like a spectrum, right? Some people might want to have more on the ownership side, and some people might want to have the security of having the compensation immediately. And so probably the best thing that we could do as an organization is to provide the flexibility to earn an income through either of those methods. And so I think the hackathons where it's a third party that is bringing the data, paying for the access to the data set, and also have a well-defined deliverable, it might be more on the side of compensation rather than ownership. And then where there is case for you have a data set and you allow people to access the data set, but there is no set objective. It's sort of a more creative process in which you, as the data scientist who worked on the data set, but you created something that's innovative. I think it's more fair to say that you should have more ownership of that algorithm than in the former case. That would be my sort of initial thoughts on it.
Yeah, I agree. Like, you know, all of these different ways of contributing to Algovera are supposed to provide options for people depending on what they want. And so on the one hand, we have the medical image hackathon, which is, you know, more for salary than it is for ownership. Then on the grant side, we have basically all for ownership and less for salary, even though I guess you get money to pay yourself as well. And then maybe there's a space in the middle for somewhere between a hackathon and a grant where it's sponsored by a partner, and you get, you know, more salary than the grants maybe, but like less ownership than the grants. And so yeah, we're just going to experiment with that, but we'd love everyone to give their thoughts on what suits them best, because I think like what Algovera is kind of like is like a trade union for data scientists. And so, you know, we want to fight for the rights of the data scientists in our community to like get the ownership that they deserve, and like also like get the salary that they deserve. And we're stronger as a group, and we have more negotiation power. And so yeah, like, yeah, I think the ownership side is one big part that we really want to push, since if you work for a tech company at the moment, you don't get any ownership. And so that's what we kind of stand for. But we also understand that there's cases where a client wants to keep ownership, so maybe they would take more.
Yeah, it's definitely more conversations to be had around this area, and hopefully we can open up opportunities for people to earn income either way. Should we start maybe the presenting the proposals, even though it's 10 minutes early? Is there anybody on the call that's presenting?
Yeah, who wants to go first?
Hello, everyone. I can start if no one else is a candidate.
Please, yeah.
Go for it.
Okay. Sorry, I don't have access to my computer right now, so I just wanted to say a few words about my proposal, which is scripting language for DAOs. And I just want to tell you a few things about why I think this is a worthy problem to work on. So the idea is that many human tasks are needed in all sorts of applications, and this is something that DAOs have access to. But right now, the kind of problems you submit to the preferences of the members of the DAO are rather limited. It's usually the owner creates a proposal and members vote on whether they agree with it or not. And so the idea, which I discussed with Richard at length, is to extend the range of possibilities for members of DAOs to make decisions. And this usually comes down to a small set of problems, which is choosing among a set of options you have, choosing one alternative among many. And we can express a binary vote like this. So a yes or no vote is just that, just a choice problem. You have ranking different options, which is something you could use, for example, for these proposals. Sorting proposals for options in categories that may or may not be ordered. So good, average, bad, or cat, dog, what have you, bird. These are also well-studied problems when you have multiple decision makers and criteria. And so the idea would be to abstract the process of collecting preferences from DAOs into these problems that would be translated in contracts. And another option you have to modularize this work is to change the aggregation procedure for these collected preferences. So that there's a wide range of different ways you can aggregate a ranking or a sorting, etc. And an exciting thing I have noticed is that, in fact, you can also express a lot of crowd work type of applications with the same primitives. So you could either help the DAO express their preferences or put them to work and earn rewards, or so you could express things like earn.com, if you're familiar with that website, with these primitives as asking the crowd to submit a string, which is another basic problem you can express this way. So all sorts of future of work type of applications would also be possible to model with this scripting language. And so to conclude, the deliverables of this project would be the contracts representing the primitives for collecting preferences for work, the contracts to aggregate these preferences, and all things would be modular, of course. They would work well together, and connecting it with some Web3 applications. And here we have some interesting ideas as well, which would be, for example, to have an artificial intelligence start the process of submitting proposals to the members of the DAO, which is something that cannot be done currently. It has to be done by a human being. Some applications in Discord boards that you can read about in the proposals. And so that's the idea, is to have a sort of open Zeppelin for DAO tooling that would be highly modular and that would allow people to put together applications fast in a way that offers a wide range of options. So that's it for me. Thank you very much for your attention. And if you have any questions, I'm here.
Fantastic. Yeah. I don't think I've ever come across a scripting language for crowdsourcing human tasks before. And so, like, especially, I was just reading a blog post by Hugging Face about active learning the other day, and so they use Mechanical Turk to crowdsource images, and then after 100 images, they might train some algorithm to see if it's enough images, and then it turns out it's not enough images. So then you need to create another Mechanical Turk crowdsourcing of images on the platform, and you crowdsource more, and then you can and then maybe train the model on the extra images. And so everything is kind of done manually. You need to go to one platform, do something through the graphical interface, and then you need to go to like PyTorch and train a model. And the ability to like script this, where you could just have a line in the code that says, crowdsource 100 images, then train model, then crowdsource 100 images, then retrain model. And just the ability to actually codify this opens up a whole load of new applications. And especially the exciting thing is that this was created without Web3 in mind as well. So if you combine it with Web3, which I think you would be the first one to do it would be the first time someone had done that, Nassim. You could have combinations of like crowdsourcing of human tasks along with like executing of smart contracts.
Absolutely.
And who knows what the applications are there. So I think it's really exciting.
Who is the next? Was it Praksh or was it Bratislav? I think it was Praksh, was it? Praksh, are you ready to go?
Just some issues at the moment. Give me some time. Yeah, go next up.
Okay. Will the FELToken project be able to present? Say a few words.
Quickly, just. Can I share screen with script presentation, or is it okay if I just talk?
I just let you. Yeah, sorry, I just put on the option to let you share if you want to go for it.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so our project is called FELToken, which is basically building platform for federated learning on blockchain. And just to quickly summarize what is federated learning, usually we talk about federated learning. We talk about situation where we have some central server, and then we have some companies or different individuals who own private data, but they don't really want to share them for the training. So they train their own models locally, and then
share only the final model with the server.
Some of the attacks.
And the anyone has question or what? Oh yeah, so I will continue. So the central server is aggregating the models, and we are trying to decentralize this in a way where we use smart contracts to control the process of aggregation instead of central server. And for storing the models, we are using IPFS. So what we are building now are the smart contracts, which will control this process, and also the web application, which will allow to easily deploy the smart contract and create your own project for federated learning and train models on top of that. So our grant deliveries for the proposals are to finish this application. So you could test some small projects and see how it goes. And with that, we would also like to create some tutorials for data scientists to how to use our application, and maybe also run some survey to see how we could potentially improve, so each data scientist could use this tool even better for their own usage. So that's mainly it. If you have any questions, just ask, and you can also follow us on Twitter or look in our website where we have all the informations.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think this is really interesting. So at the moment, in terms of private training, we're using Ocean and compute to data, but that just uses a single computer. And so federated learning, for example, so in compute to data, you send your model to train on a data set, and then you get the trained model back. But with federated learning, this model can go around multiple data sets and do some training and somehow combine all of the results. And so, yeah, it'd be really interesting to see how we can combine what FELToken are doing with the work here at Algovera.
Can I just check if you guys will be using OpenMind or
we don't really. Yeah, we are aware of OpenMind, but they usually use the central server approach, and we don't really want to use their library at the moment. We might use some parts of that because they already made a lot of progress in that field. But yeah, we don't use the whole library as a complete.
Okay, got it.
Great. Okay, who's next? Praksh, are you ready?
Yeah, I can go. So can I present just a couple of slides?
Go for it.
Yeah, sure. So I'm just posting the proposal on the chat. Just a minute. Is the screen visible?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Okay. So yeah, in just a recap of the proposal. So the idea is to work with the squad, healthcare squad per se, like that we have in the community, with folks like Arshi as well. And I think the kind of analysis that we would probably talking about is more in terms of context of AI and Web3, not necessarily a wider ecosystem of healthcare data that we would like to begin with. So first we'll try to see if we can get some basic level 1 analysis in terms of how it can be useful for the community, and then we can probably invite some potential stakeholders to the community as well. And this is another thought experiment that we had. Maybe this we could achieve is in some form. So in terms of what kind of data assets with computation model pairs that will provide more ownership to the data scientists versus data sets that will only have more ownership towards the people, the provider side. That is one thing that we are thinking of. And yeah, I think as mentioned again, we will try to focus more on how it can be useful in terms of AI and Web3 and not just the Web2 silos. And yeah, I think with my involvement in the Insight Hackathon, we could add some more insight from this in terms of how this can be incorporated into future analysis and workshops as well. And yeah, overall, I think it's more to, we will try to have some more quality surveys because they are very essential in terms of having actual feedback from the stakeholders from the traditional setups as well. And yeah, hopefully we'll plan a couple of newsletters that can be done by us, and one will be very community source information. And in terms of socials, I think we are going to mostly base it in the healthcare community pod within the Discord server that we have. And in terms of advisory side boards, we are leaning on Data Union, because we have had quite some discussion with Robin as well. And Scott from Ocean Missions had done some data friending mechanisms in terms of the Ocean Marketplace. We'll probably do a bit more deep diving and see if there are any existing market data sets that we can provide more value from. Yep, that's the summary from it. Any questions?
Thanks, Praksh. Yeah, it looks great. It would be great to develop the healthcare side more now that we're starting our hackathon and stuff. I think it'd be really interesting to look at the go-to-market strategy. So fantastic.
There was somebody else that wanted to present from Hubble proposal, right? I think it's Pushkar.
Yeah, hi Hitesh. I can briefly talk about that. So in this proposal, the squad basically consists of Timothy Carter in the lead, and I will be his aide on this proposal. So essentially, this uses public domain Hubble telescope images that are available. And this proposal entails data curation and image enhancement as a part of the deliverables. The specific deliverables that we have thought of is first off, publishing the full data set, which is a pretty heavy data set, and it exists in non-standard formats. So we will be standardizing the image shapes and trying to rectify those images using in-painting techniques or super resolution techniques, and bringing it into a usable state, making it ready for as a training data set for any machine learning algorithm to come in. So this proposal will aim to make this data basically usable by any image-based machine learning algorithm to operate upon it. Then we will be doing some kind of a annotation on top of this data set using an unsupervised clustering approach. We will try to segregate these images into certain clusters so that a user can easily navigate through all of these images. Currently, it is just a collection of multiple images, not organized in any particular way. So we aim to do annotation on this data set. And if we get enough time, then we will try to employ some in-painting kind of zero-shot learning approaches to try and restore some of these images as a part of this proposal.
Great. Fantastic, yeah. And yeah, to get a good idea, have a look at the images on the proposal of these images from the Hubble telescope. They look really, really cool. So it'd be great to retrain the generative model and see what it outputs. Cool. Who was someone up next? Oh, Iago, I think you're muted or your mic isn't working.
Sorry, I think I can go next if that's not a problem.
Go for it.
So let me just share my screen. Can everyone see it?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. So I'm here to present the proposal for the financial squad of the Algovera community. So the problem we're touching is lending and borrowing on DeFi. So lending and borrowing are the most fundamental building blocks of traditional finance. In fact, it is the most common and unique transaction that one can make on a financial environment. And in DeFi, it is no different. There is a huge need for lending and borrowing. And in fact, most of DeFi value locked are allocated into lending and borrowing protocols. But there is a big problem. As you can see on this chart, the borrowing rates for a stablecoin or protocol can be very volatile. You go ups and down in a very short time span, and there's very little clarity even on how they work on current time. So people don't know which variables are actually affecting those rates. So the financial squad is trying to solve the problem. What we're trying to come up with is a predictive model for those borrowing rates on the most popular DeFi protocols. A model like that could really help investors to take better decisions, and it could really it could help them to anticipate some of that huge volatility that we can see here, and it could also reduce a lot of risk that people are actually facing right now on DeFi. This is a big challenge because as the hacking session is seeing, there's a lot of different variables that you have to take into account, and there's a lot of unknown factors that you have to work with. But we believe that it is, although it's a big challenge, it is worth to solve it because there is a big need for a predictive model like that on DeFi. And if we could come up with a functional model, it could really show up the use cases and the applications for machine learning and AI in DeFi. I wanted to talk a little bit about what have we put together already. So even though it's very early stages on our project, we have already a valuable collection of historical data sets that could be really useful for DeFi data scientists. We are right now unraveling the deterministic models that are used by these protocols to calculate the borrowing rates. So as I said, there's a lot of variables you have to take into account, and investors don't really know which ones are affecting the response variable. So right now we're doing a very interesting analysis on that. And we just started running our first models, and we're getting some very promising results on our initial linear models, and we're hoping to expand that real soon. For those who have not come to our hacking sessions, we could really use some extra help, and I hope that you guys got a little bit interested on the problem we're trying to solve. So thank you very much. Any questions?
How did you collect the data? What tools did you use?
So we used the Dune analytics and also the graph.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you look at any DeFi protocols in particular to extract data from them?
Right now, we're looking onto Aave and Compound, where we're hoping to expand that list very soon.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Iago, for that presentation. This is a great example of like how a hacking session can bring in people from all domain and sort of work on something that's exciting and produce something at the end of it. And you know, further down in the line, we hope that it would be also be able to be an income for the projects, the people that are involved in the project. So this is a great example of that. I'm really excited to see how you guys progress. Who is there more people to present?
Can I go next, please?
Yes, go for it, Alex.
Thank you. Share screen. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yeah.
So, okay, so we've submitted 2 proposals. I'm working with 3 people on both these proposals. So first of all, our first submission was project funding models. we're trying to figure out how the best way to incentivize investments in the AI projects that are produced by the Algovera community. So we're going to be taking a simulation-based approach to figure out the best way to go about this. So some of the options we'll be investigating are common ones like quadratic funding and others. And the outputs of our investigation will go into a report and a report/blog post about where we'll be identifying the best way to incentivize investment in AI projects and incentivize people to submit more AI projects. So that's the first one. And the second one is value distribution simulations. So as you all know, and as some of you have just presented, when we work on algorithms collectively, we're facing this question of how to distribute the value that is generated by those algorithms to the people that worked on it and to the wider Algovera community. And this is a problem of tokenomics. And again, we'll be using simulations to determine the best way to do that. And again, we'll be producing a report detailing the best sort of value distribution models and showing our working essentially. Is there any questions about that? We can go into a bit more detail. So the first one was project funding models, and the second proposal is value distribution simulations.
Fantastic. Yeah, the token engineering is something that we really want to focus on a lot. So it's great that you submitted a proposal on the token engineering. Yeah, we basically want to figure out how to design our economy of funding projects and also redistributing value to the community. So I'm really excited about these.
Any more projects that wants to present?
Jeffrey.
Hi there. I have one. Thank you guys for giving me an opportunity. I know we haven't met before, but you should reach out to me to chat about the stuff that I've been working on. And I've been having a lot of fun with it since about, I guess, 2019. I had the idea of becoming some sort of expert within the world of how cannabis users communicate, okay? And it's not really my lifestyle, but I don't have any problem with it. And I definitely was in a situation where I was trying to get in front of a market that was going to blow up. And it definitely has. So the data that I've collected is something that I've written a lot of scripts to mine. It can use some updating and some integration into a cloud service, okay? It's all stuff that I've just been running locally. The reason that it hasn't been, I think, as well developed as it could be right now is primarily because the market fit is really difficult to determine on this type of a project. There's nobody in the cannabis industry that's looking for NLP data right now. I identified an opportunity through studying that really looked at snack foods and drinks in terms of understanding what these people are up to do a better job catering to them with products that they'd use. Food and drink manufacturers honestly haven't been too attuned with the concept either. So where I'm looking to go, honestly, is not to market to cannabis users or to food and drink manufacturers. What I want to build long-term is some type of a personal assistant that really understands and speaks the language of cannabis enthusiasts. So really where I see myself right now is, can I use some sort of force in the market to help me get from here to there in terms of having some raw data and having some scripts to mine it. What I see now as an opportunity to do that is cannabis investing. And so the program or the project that we saw a couple of minutes ago in terms of predictive forecasting of market values, something like that can be done where we look at amplitude and sentiment around brand names for major public cannabis companies around the world. And so visualizing that and making that something that users can connect with, sort of along the lines of DeFi Llama. I imagine a bunch of you guys have spent time there, but if we could host the data on Ocean and allow people the opportunity to connect using maybe their own SQL scripts or dashboards that other users have generated for them to start to mine into this data, I think that would help the project gain a lot of visibility moving forward, and then allow us to take further steps in the direction of building some really cool technology. So thank you guys for your time. I genuinely appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Yeah, there's a lot, like a lot of people use social sentiment, like from Twitter, for example, and natural language processing models to try and figure out trade signals, I suppose. And I think even on the Ocean marketplace, there's some text data sets of crypto news sites. And so if you can, analyze what's in that text and decide what to trade, you can make money. And I think the niche that you found in the text about the cannabis industry in particular is amazing. Like, I'm sure no one else is doing that. I definitely haven't heard of anyone. And so, yeah, I think it's a fantastic idea. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't think anybody else is doing it. I do have a model right now that mines Telegram data and some other data to trade on, pump and dump opportunities. I think that those types of R scripts have been floating around GitHub for a couple of years now. So people who want them can get them. We'll try, I think, if I have about 100 million words of Twitter data now, with the grant, I should be specific, we'll mine Reddit. And it's really easy to get hundreds of millions of cannabis community words there. And then, if we can fold in Telegram too, even better. So thanks.
It'd be great to build up some expertise around social sentiment models in the community. I think that would be really cool, and include it in our trade signals. Maybe even include it with like the DeFi borrowing cost and time series forecasting. I think that would be really, really cool.
I can't see why not. Yep.
Fantastic. Was there anyone next? I'm going to present Alex's ass.
I can go.
Yeah, go, Tarun.
Hello, guys. So let me share my screen. Do you all see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm sharing my proposal, which is on building a fast depth estimation toolkit. So me, like building things. I'm a research engineer with A-Star Singapore, which is the public research arm here. I mainly work on deep learning, a lot of NLP also, but I don't get to do much computer vision. So I feel this is a good opportunity for me to try things different from work. So let's talk about depth estimation. So what do I mean by depth estimation? It's like where we use just an image, not a 3D camera like Kinect or a stereo camera, just a normal camera image, and are able to predict how far or close things are. So and this is actually quite useful in a lot of domains, So if you think about it, this is a kind of a segmentation task where you take an image and you are marking some areas of the image and like segmenting them out essentially. So this is just a specialized segmentation task. So uses like one of the things I've been discussing with Richard is like what we can do is so one of the main points of my project is that there are lots of algorithms that do segmentation. There are also smaller models, but if I want really fast inference speed, and by really fast inference speeds, I mean several FPS, not processing several frames per second. The things are not really out there for that right now, unless you run a cluster, and then too, it's not that great. So one of the applications is like for something like an Instagram filter, where you're able to do very fast segmentation and just add some computer graphics on top of it to make some filters. And what I mean by that is like right now, all these filters are in these different proprietary apps. So what I would like is that maybe we can have something more general, which people in the Web3 community can plug in. I'm not sure if this might also have any applications related to, in future segmentation can be involved in some sort of NFT applications too, but I'll leave it for you guys to figure out. Then there's obviously robotics planning. So if you have, if you're a robot and on top of that, you have a little computer, obviously the processing power is not that great and you want things to run in real time. So once again, you need this inference to be very fast. And there are many other use cases. So like I said, this is just a depth estimation. It's just a particular use case of segmentation, but segmentation by itself has many use cases. So what I'm trying to do is that there was this workshop, CUPR, which is like the top conference in computer vision. There was a workshop in 2021 where they had this as a task, the depth estimation, but you had to do it on a Raspberry Pi, like that level of compute, and do it really fast. So I think that is quite valuable from, if you're trying to a lot of time distribute compute and have many nodes that are not very powerful and do things. So having models that are really small and can run on practically a mobile phone or even a weaker device make a lot of sense. So in this workshop, like there was a competition, there was a leaderboard, and they had all these they had a bunch of papers out, and everyone came up with some tricks like quantization, like knowledge distillation, and even some special architectures to compete. And I feel individually some output is there, but what I would like to do is take all the learnings from this workshop and convert it into a proper toolkit, which can be used to train fast segmentation models. I also plan to, obviously document it well, so you can take your own data and train a model on it. And lastly, it's about, I'm willing to, if there is interest, give a talk on what's inside, like what are the things that I used from this workshop and other things that I put in from my own research to make this work well. So those are my deliverables. Any questions? And obviously I'm looking for collaborators, so please come talk to me later also.
Thanks. This is a fantastic application of computer vision. My background's computer vision, so I love this stuff, the depth prediction. Yeah, it'd be really cool to have, if you build this toolkit, it would be really cool to have that on the Ocean marketplace. I can kind of envision in future where people release models on the Ocean marketplace first. So at the moment we're trying to take lots of models and bring them over to Web3. But if Web3 is the only place where you can find these models, I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Fantastic.
So yeah.
And also, I always talk about the advantages of AI in Web3, and I think one of them is that we don't have walled gardens. So, for example, if you use Instagram, for example, you get to use their computer vision algorithms within their platform, and then maybe you go to, I don't know, Zoom, and then you can use their computer vision algorithms between their platform. But there's no interoperability between all of the different computer vision algorithms. And so, what if we didn't have these walled gardens, and what if you could use whichever computer vision algorithm you wanted to create some filter? Like, say for example, on Zoom, maybe you want to be anonymized, you want your face pixelated, and so you would own a token of some face anonymization algorithm that maybe it's in like an AI wallet, and so when you go to Zoom, it checks your AI wallet, sees you have this computer vision algorithm, and applies it to your video. And then maybe you go to some other video conferencing platform and it uses the same algorithm. And so there's more interoperability between all of these different algorithms. But that's way in the future. So for now, the first step is to try and get these algorithms on Web3, which is really cool. Okay, so is it just Alex's left? I think it might be, yeah.
Did Alex just not present? No? Was that somebody else?
Alex mentioned, no, Alex Tosi hasn't presented.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So, and I can't talk at the moment apparently. So I'm just gonna share my screen and share the proposal. And it's actually a good follow on from the previous one because it is computer vision again. And so I think the key innovation here, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, Alex, is it uses this software called Puppeteer. And I think this Puppeteer software lets you capture images from the internet using a screenshot, and then we can use them to train computer vision algorithms, basically. And so one potential use case, and Alex is focusing on an object detector that they want to train. So in this example here, maybe we have these virtual worlds, like maybe they're Web3 worlds like Decentraland and places like that. Or maybe they're like game worlds, like Fortnite or something like that. But wouldn't it be cool if we could have object detectors, just like we have for self-driving cars? But what if we had them in digital worlds? And so when you're walking through a digital world, you could run these algorithms to detect all of these different objects around you. And so that's the application. And then I think the images are going to be obtained using Puppeteer, and then using the image AI library, which has some out-of-the-box object detectors. And they've also been working on this in a GitHub repo. So yeah, this is really cool, and I'd encourage you to check it out and ask Alex if you have any questions. Cool.
Great. So I think that's a wrap on the project proposals. Yeah, they're all very excellent and interesting. I'd encourage anyone that find any of the projects interesting to reach out to the proposers and strike a conversation. I think sort of encouraging as much collaboration between projects and between collaborators is between sort of proposers and members of the community would be a really valuable thing. So definitely do encourage anyone to reach out.
Yeah, I was blown away by the number of proposals. Like 15 is a lot. It was way higher than my expectations, which means that it's a really competitive round. And so there's going to be like quite a few projects who don't get it, unfortunately. So just straight away, I'd love any projects that don't end up successful. We'd love you to stay in the community and apply next month. We plan to do the same thing next month, and maybe even like increase the funds if we can. We'll talk about that later, I suppose. But yeah, we're just delighted to see so many people applying for grants and like the community growing. And as Hitesh said, there's a few proposals that are like have similarities and maybe overlaps and stuff. And so what we want to do in Algovera is have an open environment of collaboration. And this is part of the reason behind the you know, the squads framework that we're creating, where, for example, even if it's a team of one person, we want to set you up in a squad so that if you want to gradually build a team through Algovera, you have the means to do that and share treasury and voting and stuff. And maybe even the squads maybe they'll even be like inter-squads avenues of collaboration in future as well. And so this is one of the big things that we wanted to change from Ocean, where Ocean is great, but there could be more collaboration between the different teams. And so that's something that we've really focused on in our community. So yeah, just everyone, like, the more you can check out the proposals, start chatting to each other. If you have a question, comment on the discourse, like maybe even talk in the Discord channel for grants. If people have questions, the more communication, the better. And then, yeah, the discussion process will end next Sunday at the same time, I think. And then voting for 3 days. And then after that, we'll announce the winners. So yeah, really just blown away by all of the grants that came in. So I couldn't sleep last night. I was so excited seeing, 15 proposals. So it's absolutely fantastic.
They're all brilliant proposals as well, which is just a cherry on the top as well. Like,
really, really high quality. Yeah. And like Ocean struggles to get enough data science proposals. And so actually one thing that I want to do this week is I'm going to put a presentation together and bring it to the Ocean DAO, which is on Wednesday, and hopefully present some of the ideas from our community and get Ocean interested in what's going on here, because they have great grants in terms of like bringing data sets onto the marketplace and stuff, but there's really not that much going on in terms of data science, machine learning, and all that sort of stuff. And so I think they'll be really excited to see some of these proposals that we've got. And I look forward to seeing how they develop.
Cool. So I guess we'll finish it up there. Thanks everyone for joining and for presenting. We also encourage people to leave feedback for people in the discourse forum. So yeah, I guess thanks for joining, and we'll see you on the next town hall. Bye-bye, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.